Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are bringing you a cinematic deep dive into a timeline that just completely fractured the entire National Football League. We are looking at the butterfly effect of the 2026 NFL offseason. Before we dissect the anatomy of this massive, landscape-shifting earthquake, make sure to subscribe to NFL Nexus, like this explainer, and comment down below with what you thought. And please, if you love this kind of deep, no-nonsense analysis, support the channel by becoming a channel member. Your support is exactly what lets us keep building these intense, detailed breakdowns. Okay, let's dive into this. The NFL is an ecosystem built on a razor's edge. A single transaction, a single minor medical update, it can completely rewrite the destiny of a franchise. Today, we're looking at two vastly different realities, unfolding at the exact same moment. On one side of the country, an arms race of apocalyptic proportions, and on the other, a meticulous, grueling, quiet battle against human anatomy. This explainer is going to show you exactly how fragile the balance of power truly is.
So I want you to think about this. What does it actually cost to build an NFL super team? It's a concept we hear thrown around a lot in sports media, right? Oh, this team is a super team, that team is a super team. But true super teams are incredibly rare. They require a perfect storm. We're talking aggressive front office maneuvering, massive capital, and honestly, a total ruthless disregard for the future. Building a super team means you are looking at your championship window and deciding to just smash the glass entirely. You aren't playing for next year. You certainly aren't playing for 3 years from now. You are playing for right now. And when a front office decides to push all their chips to the center of the table and go all in, the shockwaves are felt in every single locker room across the league. The cost isn't just draft picks, guys. The cost is the immense, suffocating pressure to win a ring immediately. Because if you fail, the collapse isn't just bad. It is catastrophic.
And then the breaking news hit. Rams trade for Myles Garrett, making them an overwhelming championship favorite. Just let the absolute gravity of that headline sink in for a second. This trade perfectly captures the sheer terror the Los Angeles Rams have just unleashed on the rest of the league. You had ESPN insiders Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, and Ian Rappaport all reporting it simultaneously. Your phone is buzzing, Twitter is melting down, the two-time Defensive Player of the Year is officially packing his bags for the West Coast. We are talking about a player who, just last season in 2025, completely shattered Michael Strahan's legendary 2001 record. He logged 23 sacks in 17 games. 23 sacks. He is an offensive coordinator's absolute worst nightmare. He's a gravitational force on the defensive line, and now he has been dropped directly into Sean McVay's lap. And to truly understand the magnitude of this, you have to look at the macro-level landscape. The Rams went 12-5 last year. They fell just short in the NFC Championship to the Seahawks. But with Seattle losing their MVP running back in free agency, the door was cracked open. The Rams didn't just walk through it, they took a sledgehammer and kicked it entirely off the hinges.
Section 1. Rams build a super team. Let's look at what going all in actually looks like on paper. The sheer, staggering volume of the ransom tells you everything you need to know about the desperation and ambition in LA. The Los Angeles Rams receive Myles Garrett. But in exchange, the Cleveland Browns receive edge rusher Jared Verse, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2029 third-round pick. Just look at those years, 2027, 2028, 2029. The Rams are literally mortgaging their draft capital until the end of the decade. They are surrendering Jared Verse, an Ohio native with sky-high potential, just to get this deal across the finish line. And Cleveland general manager Andrew Berry, he accepts it, knowing full well he has the impossible task of replacing a franchise icon. The Browns get a massive, massive haul to rebuild for the future. But for Los Angeles, the future is entirely irrelevant. The future is a luxury they simply cannot afford to care about right now. A maxed-out Madden Ultimate Team. Honestly, that is the only accurate way to describe the 2026 Los Angeles Rams right now. It feels like a video game glitch. Let's look at the terrifying details that make this roster so incredibly dangerous. Last year, the Rams' defense allowed just 20.4 points per game. That ranked 10th in the NFL. Very solid. Now you add Trent McDuffie from a previous offseason move, plus Myles Garrett to that exact same unit. But it's the other side of the ball that makes this an unstoppable juggernaut. Quarterback Matthew Stafford, at 38 years old, is coming off a 2025 league MVP season. He confirmed he is returning to command an offense that scored 30.5 points per game last year, #1 in the NFL. Think about that. You pair the #1 offense in football with a newly reinforced, monstrous defense, and you have a team that is built for exactly one destination: Super Bowl 61. And where exactly is Super Bowl 61 being held on February 14th, 2027? SoFi Stadium. Their home turf. I mean, you can't make this up. The script is almost too perfect.
Section 2. Colts quietly retooled depth. Now let's step away from the blinding lights of Los Angeles.
Because while the lights shine brightest in Hollywood, a completely different, much harsher reality is unfolding in the Midwest. Deep inside the Indiana Farm Bureau Football Center, the Colts front office is doing the gritty, unglamorous, and absolutely essential work of retooling the depth chart. While the Rams are out there hunting whales, the Colts are turning the absolute bottom of their 90-man OTA roster. And guys, the Colts' recent transactions highlight the brutal, unforgiving mathematical reality of the NFL offseason. It is a strictly one-in, one-out business. For a dream to begin, another dream has to end right then and there. The Colts brought in 3 new players: quarterback Easton Stick, center Josh Kreutz, and cornerback Giante McMillan. But to make room for those 3, they had to walk up to 3 other players and clear their lockers. They waived guard Ladarius Henderson, a 2024 7th-round pick by Houston. They waived defensive back Wyatt Eckler and quarterback Seth Hennigan, both 2025 undrafted free agents. All 3 of these departing players had been practice squad mainstays. They poured their sweat into this facility. But the NFL stands for not for long. The Colts brass looked at their interior offensive line and defensive backfield and decided they needed a schematic shift immediately. They wanted a true center instead of a guard. They wanted a true cornerback instead of a safety linebacker hybrid playing out of position. Every single transaction, no matter how small it looks on Twitter, is a heavily calculated chess move. Let's look a little closer at these undrafted free agents, because the details here are actually fascinating and show you exactly what Indianapolis is trying to build. Josh Kreutz isn't just some random undrafted rookie from Illinois. He is the son of the legendary Chicago Bears center and 6-time Pro Bowler Olin Kreutz. Olin is now a football strength trainer, and his methods are notoriously intense. Listen to this. Colts guard Matt Gonkow's actually trained with Olin this entire offseason and gained 10 pounds of pure lean body mass. Now, Josh Kreutz brings that exact same rugged, blood-and-guts pedigree to Indy. At 6'2", 280 pounds, he's stepping right into a fierce, bare-knuckle competition for the backup center role behind starter Tana Bortolini, battling veteran Jimmy Morrissey and fellow UDFA Gino Vandemark. Then you have Giante McMillan. This is a cornerback who spent 6 long years grinding through the college ranks at Minnesota and TCU. 55 games played, 56 tackles, 4 pass breakups. He comes highly recommended, earning a ringing endorsement from Colts second-year corner Justin Wally, who actually shared a defensive backfield with him at Minnesota. These aren't just random names on a transaction wire. These are highly targeted, culturally aligned acquisitions.
Section 3. The Steichen Quarterback Reunion. This is where the strategy really gets deep.
The single most strategic depth signing of the day happened at the most important position in all of sports. Let me tell you something about the quarterback room. It is a sanctuary. It requires absolute trust, absolute synergy, and absolute familiarity. When you are building a quarterback room, especially under the incredibly tense current circumstances in Indianapolis, you literally cannot afford a learning curve. You need someone who speaks the complex language of the offense natively, day one. So, the crucial point here is how these 2 timelines perfectly intersect. Let's trace it back. In 2019, the Los Angeles Chargers drafted Easton Stick out of North Dakota State in the 5th round, 166th overall. And who was the Chargers quarterback's coach at the exact same time? Shane Steichen. Steichen's well-respected voice in that building was a primary reason Stick was drafted in the first place. Steichen would soon become the interim offensive coordinator midway through that 2019 season, eventually moving on to Philadelphia and then Indy to become a head coach. But that bond was formed. Now, jump to 2023. Stick is suddenly thrust into the starting lineup for 5 absolutely brutal games in Los Angeles, and he holds his own. He completes nearly 64% of his passes, throwing for 1,129 yards and 3 touchdowns. He proved to the league that he could survive under the brightest lights. And now, in 2026, the paths cross again. Steichen is running the entire operation in Indianapolis, and he brings his former pupil right back into the fold. Why? Because trust matters, especially when your franchise's most valuable asset is currently broken.
Section 4. Daniel Jones rehabs Achilles. The ultimate test of patience and medical science.
Which brings us to the absolute highest stakes storyline happening inside the Indiana Farm Bureau Football Center right now. Forget the massive megatrades, forget the undrafted free agents, the entire future of this franchise, the job security of general manager Chris Ballard, the ultimate success of Shane Steichen's tenure. It all hinges on the healing tendon in the back of Daniel Jones's leg. The starting franchise quarterback is rehabbing a torn Achilles.
If you know anything about sports injuries, you know it is a grueling, lonely, and absolutely terrifying medical journey. 176. That is the exact number of days it has been since Daniel Jones suffered his season-ending Week 14 Achilles tear last season. 176 days of agonizing rehab. 176 days of essentially living inside the training facility. As Stitchen said, Jones lives in this building. He is working his tail off every single day to get back to form. Now, an Achilles tear is no longer the absolute career death sentence it used to be a decade ago, but the timeline is still vicious. The question isn't just whether Jones will be physically able to start Week 1 on September 13th. The real question, the terrifying question keeping the front office awake at night, is how healthy and how confident will he truly be when he steps onto that field.
But this week, a massive collective sigh of relief washed over Indianapolis. Jones kicked off OTAs as a limited participant. He was restricted strictly to individual work, just throwing passes on air, against air, absolutely no defense allowed. But after breaking for the weekend, Steichen and the medical staff decided Jones had made enough progress to take the next massive step. He officially returned to 7-on-7 team drills, his very first team action in nearly 6 months. And by all accounts from the local media standing on the sidelines, he looked remarkably comfortable. The stats from that highly scrutinized session: he completed 5 of his 6 pass attempts. He threw 2 short touchdowns, both connecting with wide receiver Ashton Dulin. To be under 6 months removed from a violently snapped Achilles and to already be processing the field, stepping into your throws with power, and finding the end zone in 7-on-7s, it suggests he isn't just on schedule. He might actually be slightly ahead of schedule.
However, the fear of a setback is utterly paralyzing. And this quote right here reveals the exact, razor-thin tightrope the Colts are walking. Read what Shane Steichen said to his quarterback. Don't scramble in 7-on-7. Be smart in these situations. If it's not there, throw it out of bounds, or if you want to drop it on the ground, I'm good with that too. That is a strict, hyper-cautious psychological leash placed directly on the franchise quarterback. Steichen is allowing Jones to participate in 7-on-7s precisely because there is no pass rush. There is no 300-pound defensive tackle diving at his surgically repaired legs. There is no one speeding up his internal clock. But even in a totally controlled environment, Steichen is demanding absolute self-preservation. They're keeping the defense at bay. They're completely holding off on full 11-on-11 teamwork until training camp later this summer. They are managing this multi-million-dollar investment with extreme prejudice because they know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that if Jones goes down again, the entire season goes down with him.
And that, ultimately, brings us to the ultimate fragility of the Super Bowl window. As OTAs wrap up on June 4th and we barrel toward mandatory minicamp from June 9th through the 11th, we are witnessing 2 entirely different, deeply contrasting philosophies of survival in the modern NFL. On one hand, you have the Los Angeles Rams. They are armed with an aging MVP quarterback, and they are leveraging their entire future, trading away first, second, and third-round picks just to secure Myles Garrett. They are betting absolutely everything they have on a single glorious roll of the dice at SoFi Stadium in February. On the other hand, you have the Indianapolis Colts, carefully, methodically churning the bottom of their roster, reuniting trusted backup quarterbacks just in case, and holding their collective breath every single time their starting quarterback takes a drop back on a surgically repaired Achilles. 2 teams, 2 completely different paths to the exact same trophy. Which leaves us with one final, very provocative thought. Look at the landscape of the league right now. With super teams forming out west, with front offices completely abandoning the draft to build Madden Ultimate Teams, is the Colts' methodical, cautious, draft and develop rebuild enough to compete in this new, hyper-aggressive NFL? Can patience, culture, and medical precision actually overcome a roster built on massive blockbuster trades and overwhelming star power? That is the storyline that will absolutely define the 2026 season. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive on NFL Nexus. I really want to know what you guys think. Drop your answers to that final question in the comments below. Let's get a debate going. And again, don't forget to subscribe, like this explainer, and become a channel member to support this level of detailed cinematic analysis. Until next time, keep your eyes on the transaction wire, because as we just saw, the league can change in a second.